Are you thinking about moving to Spain with kids? Wondering how the public school system actually works right now in 2025? In this video, we will break down everything you need to know about how to enroll your kids in a public school in Spain, how to enroll, what to expect, and whether it is a correct choice for your family. Hi everyone, welcome to Spain Unlocked, your go-to channel about all things Spain, from moving tips to everyday life in our sunny country. And today we will focus on the Spain's public school system, everything that you should know about public schools here in 2025. First of all, what you should know is that in Spain there are different school systems. There is a public school system, a semi-private one, and the private one. So today we're focusing only on the public. First of all, how does it actually work? Which stages there are in the public school system in Spain? Here on the screen, you can see the chart that will explain perfectly what these stages actually are. There are stage 1, which is infantil, from 3 to 6 years old. This is optional, but free in Spain. Then we have primary school, primaria, which goes from 6 to 12 years old. This one is mandatory and it's also a free education. In general, both the preschool, primary, secondary, and bachillerato are all free of charge educations. Primary school is followed by secondary, which is secundaria in Spain, from 12 to 16 years old. Secondary school, it's also mandatory, so you have to obligatory study primary and secondary school. Once the child turns 16, there is an option to go to bachillerato, which is another 2 years. Bachillerato is from 16 to 18 years old. It is not mandatory, but it is obligatory if you want to go to university and study a degree afterwards. If not, then you do not have to go to bachillerato if you don't want to. Let's go quick down all of these stages. The infantil or preschool from 3 to 6 years old is widely used here in Spain. A lot of public educational institutions do offer these types of classes for children under the obligatory school age, and many families do use it simply because it is better for a child to start learning slightly before the obligatory schooling system, since they get to adapt inside of the classroom. It's going to be easier for them to start primary school if beforehand they were used to schedules and how the structure is done inside of the school, even though it was preschool still. Many public schools here have infantil and primary in the same building, so children will pass directly to another stage in the same exact spot. From infantil, which is not obligatory once again, children pass to another stage, which will be primaria, which is primary school. These are 6 years of education. It is obligatory already, and during these years, children tend to learn social science, natural science, English, which is not a lot in some schools. We'll talk about it slightly later on about the differences in different areas of Spain. Then they're learning, obviously, Spanish, Castellano, literature, reading, writing, etc. They have mathematics to music, arts, and physical activity classes. Also, depending on the area where you might be living, there can be a second co-official language, like it is the case in our region of Valencian community. Apart from Castellano, we do have Valencian co-official language, which is widely used in public schooling institutions. You need to know about this because a lot of families are surprised whenever they move here, and children do learn several subjects in Valencian, more or less, depending on the area, which we'll talk also about in a second. From primary school, which is 6 years, we move to a next stage, which is also obligatory, and that is the secundaria, which is secondary stage. Here, children have another 4 years, and obviously they already implement more history. There might be biology, there might be chemistry, there might be physics, and some more subjects that they will be learning. And from then onwards, if they want to take the bachillerato, which is 2 years of preparation for exams to go to university, they're more than free to do so. It's also free education. And if not, they can opt for working directly, start their own business, or, for example, go to FP, which is Formación Profesional, professional education, to actually get a degree of a kind where you do not need university degree as it is to be able to work in this specific profession. Who can enroll into public schools in Spain? And the answer is it depends if it is an obligatory education, which means primary and secondary school from 6 to 16 years old, or if it's not the case. Obviously, those who have residence permits or those who are Spanish citizens or those who are coming from European Union, these people do not need a specific permit or they have already permit on hand. So you can enroll even if in a non-obligatory schooling system here in Spain, which means preschool or bachillerato. Everyone are able to enroll their children into mandatory school system from 6 to 16 years old here in Spain, even if you are still dealing with the necessary legal paperwork. The most important thing to have is the place to live that is registered, a contract either of purchase or rentals, plus the certificate of empadronamiento in the local town hall. And then you're able to actually enroll your children into school. There are two processes of how to do so. One of them is when you enroll children during the usual period when the process is started, which is springtime every single year between March and the end of April, first days of May. That is when the official process window is open. And all families here are enrolling their children into a public school or confirming that the child will still be in the same public school where it initially was. Or ask for a shift to a different school in case you do not like the school where you currently are at and you want something, let's say, closer to your home address and residency. Thus, this is a usual period. And then after this period, if we take into consideration obligatory schooling system from 6 to 16 years old, then you can enroll your child any time of the year. It doesn't matter because it is an obligatory system. It's primary or secondary schooling. So a child needs to go to school. Even if you arrive at any other time of the year that is not March, April, or May, don't worry about it. You will still be able to enroll them. The only thing is that maybe in the school that you want, there's not going to be any kind of places left, but they will eventually still assign you a school where there are free spots left for your child or children. The government, the Ministry of Education, tend not to separate brothers and sisters if there are several children, unless it's different institutions. Because in Spain, infantil, which is preschool, and primary tends to be in the same building, in the same area, but then the secondary education, which is institutes already here in Spain, tends to be in a separate building so that they wouldn't mix all these different ages. So institute and bachillerato tends to be in one place and primary and preschool in another place. This is how it works in all public institutions. It will be very, very different when we will speak about private institutions here on the channel shortly. Public schools are also free of charge, which means that you do not need to pay any kind of monthly fees at all for the education. But what you will probably need to pay is for the materials and the books. Usually public schools get books from Carrefour, which is a big like shopping supermarket. They need to register and pre-reserve them, pre-book them in advance. And once their time comes, during summer, they're calling parents and saying, your books are here, you need to come and pick them up. So that is a cost. However, some schools still have libraries inside, which gather all the books from the previous years. So it's like in our decades when we went to school, we had libraries and we were getting all the books, the vast majority of them from the library. We had to return them in a good condition afterwards. So more or less in a lot of public schools, that is still the case, so that you wouldn't need to spend a big amount of money on these. However, you will need to buy books where they write down inside, where they need to do exercises, because these, it's very, very hard to reuse because you can see everything that's been written already. And it's just hard to learn with this type of material. And also the material in general to use inside of the classrooms, like pens, pencils, erasers, colorful paper, or if they need colorful pencils, pens, whatever it is, all this will be needed to provide at the beginning of the school year, which here, by the way, depending on the age, at least in our region, is always the second week of September. September between 7th and 9th, that is when children start school in our region in Valencian community. And then you'll ask, what about the language barrier? Because our children don't speak Spanish or barely speak Spanish, only English or any other language. What do we do then? Well, honestly, a lot of schools right now, it's a globalized world. People are migrating, changing countries from one to the other in search of better and quality life for them. Thus, especially in our region, Madrid and other communities here in Spain, people are more than used to it, and schools are used to it too. In public schools, as well as in private ones, and in general, all the education system, if there are children that do not know Spanish very well, inside of the timetable, learning timetable at school, school reserves a few hours a week to be able to give them extra Spanish lessons so that children would adapt as soon as possible to the new environment and start learning the official language here in Spain, which is Castellano. In case you are in the area where there's Valencian or Catalan or any other type of co-official language, do not worry, because there will not be extra lessons in this case, except for Catalonia, which in some parts they might tell you to get extra lessons in Catalan because it's widely used, unlike our Valencian community. So it all depends on the area that you will choose for your relocation. But languages in Castellano, extra lessons will be provided and normally are provided inside of the public school system. So don't worry about it. Children usually adapt in a couple of weeks, and in 6 months, in 1 year, they are already, freely speaking, they're almost fluent in Spanish, as much fluent as possible in this time. They actually are. So it's not as hard for them to adapt as for us parents in the new environment. How to actually submit paperwork for your child to be admitted in a public school here in Spain is: get a property where you will be living, either rentals or purchase, get a contract, go to the town hall and take out the certificate of empadronamiento. With this document, plus the official paperwork such as passport, certificate of birth, etc., you will need to go to the Ministry of Education and submit the petition that you want your child or children to be enrolled in a public school in the municipality, in the town where you are living. After which, depending on if it's a primary or secondary, they will call you in a few days or weeks, depending when you will submit it. In summer, usually it takes longer because a lot of people are on holidays in the official administrations, which the ministry is. They will call you from school and they will tell you when you need to come, which paperwork you need to bring, and it is there where you will finish all the entire process of admission to the public school. They'll let you know where to get the books, how to get them, if you need to pay something. What about the transport? Because public schools actually offer a bus, a transport from different areas if you cannot bring your children to school by car, or if it's far away, if you don't have a vehicle still, you can use the bus service that the school offers. So all of this, they will inform you inside of the school that will be assigned for your child or children. What are the pros and cons of the public education here in Spain? Honestly, it depends a lot on the region, but the basic, the global, the most important ones, pros, for example, might be that it's a free education. You do not need to pay any single penny monthly, on a monthly basis, for your children to study here in Spain. Schools here, public schools, are available in any single city, any single town, any single village right next to you. And private schools, for example, in bigger areas, yes, there are private schools and several of them. But in small villages, for example, the only option that you might be having is just a public school. Exposure to Spanish language and culture, not so much culture anymore, I would say, because it is an international world. And inside of a public school, you will find people from all over different countries, European and non European Union ones. So it is a mix right now. It's not so much getting into the Spanish culture any longer, but the vast majority of lessons obviously will be in Spanish. English is only 1 or 2 hours a week, depends on the area where you will be, and if a school is adapting a special learning method, like bilingual, mostly in Spanish, English, or if you are in the region that has a co-official language. Some schools adapt mostly learning in Valencian, then plus Spanish and just the tiniest bit of English. Others prefer typical official Spanish, which is Castellano, plus English and a tiniest bit of Valencian. So it all depends which school you will be enrolled in and in which area that's going to be happening. You can always check all the information on the official Ministry of Education website. You can contact us if you need to for a consultation. And here we have down below all our details for the contact, both email, our company's WhatsApp, and the official website, where you can get some more information about all the services that we offer and fill in the form to reach out to us if you want to book an initial consultation. The integration programs for international students are also free of charge, which means that you do not need to pay anything else for extra Spanish lessons that they will be giving to your child in school. However, we do feel, and we did see it in a lot of public schools, that depending on if you're lucky or not, some schools are very, very pendant on if he's doing well, if not, if he needs some extra lessons or not. If he's not understanding something, try to speak in English or explain to him somehow with a translator. But other schools do not worry so much about it, and the student is on its own. So you need to check it in advance. You need to get informed about which schools offer which kind of services and what natives and locals especially know about these types of schools, because a lot of the times we have groups of moms and dads, parents, in all different schools that share their opinion, and there is a lot that is not published out there in the social media or on the official websites. What might be the cons? Well, obviously, if you are in a region that has a co-official language, the co-official language that you would need to learn, plus there is not a lot of English and international languages in these types of schools. There's starting to be, but it's not the same as in a private or a semi-private institution. Also, for example, English teachers, they hardly, a lot of them still hardly have a mid B2 level. The children will be receiving some lessons of English, but it's not going to be probably the best, if you could say it like this. There are some schools that have bilingual teachers, that's true, and native speakers, but in public institutions, that is rarely a case. So you need to consider it too while moving and relocating to Spain. Also, classrooms tend to be quite crowded in a public school, depending on how big the area is where you're living, how many schools there are available, but it is not rare to see more than 32, 30, between 30 and 36 even children inside of one single classroom, which is a lot. We shouldn't be surprised, because back in my time in 2000, 2010, we did have classes that were as big as this, around 31, 32 children inside of one single class. But nowadays, it is considered too much, and private institutions or semi-private ones have usually a lower amount of children enrolled into the same classroom to ensure a proper education. There's not going to be too much noise, and that the professor will be able to actually educate and explain to all children inside of the same group. So these are the worst probably parts of it. Also, the last one, but not least important, is that you cannot choose which public school you want your children to be enrolled to. You do not have a choice. What you can do, and the maximum that you could do, is during the process of registration, you have to fill in a form. Well, you have to put up until like 6 or 7 different schools that you're interested in. And the first one will be that you're most interested in. And like this, it goes down towards the least favorite one. This is what you can do. Preferences. That is that. You cannot choose which one you want to go. And if you're enrolling outside of a usual process, which is spring from March till the end of April, probably you will not get the school that you're hoping for. So that is like 3 most negative points that we can actually tell about the public education here in Spain. And now to the most frequently asked questions about the public education here in Spain. First of all, the one that we've already answered, are you able to choose a public school for your children? And the answer is no. You can put preferences, but you cannot choose exactly the school where you want them to be enrolled. The Ministry of Education is the one who does it based on the location, based on the distance, if there's any siblings that are going to this school, and a few more criteria. Are there actually bilingual schools in Spain? And the answer is obviously yes. Depending on the region, these schools are mostly based in Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, like key capitals of the regions, capitals of the communities, comunidades. In these schools, there is a preference of Spanish and English equally, or at least slightly more English than in usual typical schools, not just 1 or 2 hours. Or there might be preferences of Spanish, English, plus the co-official language, like it is the case in our Valencian community, or might be in Catalonia, or might be in some areas north of Spain, like in Galicia or País Vasco, between others. Is public education better than private? That's the question number 3, the most asked one by parents, not only those who want to live here, but actually those who actually live here already. And there is no correct answer to that one. Both educations are the same. There is one single plan of the Ministry of Education, which is being given both to public and private institutions. So at the end of it all, both of these will need to stick more or less to the plan. The thing is that public schools might not always have the tools necessary to provide the best experience, the best educational experience for children. They might have slightly older books or not as many alternatives inside for creativity. They might not be able to do some interesting projects such as private schools are, Erasmus programs, excursions somewhere, last model computers, or graphic boards with AI technology, iPads for children, etc. That might be the case. Some public schools are excellent, some of them are not so much, but there's also private schools. The thing with private schools is that you can actually demand a good service because you're paying for the education. There is usually more control in terms of abuse inside of school and bullying, which is also a very important point to consider. Public schools tend to diminish it, tends to minimize the issue and say that there is no issue, that these are just children and that is normal. And at the end, the one who's been bullied, not the aggressor, is the one who has to abandon the school. A lot of the times that is what's happening. Private institutions, it's way different. You can demand things, and these issues are very, very fastly solved because they cannot risk their reputation being a private institution. Thus, there are a lot of pros in terms of private education, but it will be already in another video here on the channel. Hopefully this video was useful for you. Hopefully you were able to get some useful information and interesting information for your family. And if you have more questions, don't forget that you can write us comments down below first of all. And if you want to know something specific about your family's case, feel free to contact us with the contact details down below. We wish you a great day, and we'll see you in a new video here on the channel, Spain Unlocked, your #1 guide of relocation to Spain and life, real life in our sunny country. Goodbye.